Hello, Kielin Topa. My name is Finan Pa. Haven't you heard about Focal Online TV?
You say Focal Online TV?
Focal Online TV is located within a Topo village community along the Japanese highway.
Tell me more about the platform.
This platform, called Focal Online TV Daily Edition of Inside the Print Media, does not encourage any form of dialogue between the viewers and the presenters.
Oh, you mean nobody calling there?
No, you can't call on a show. Let me talking out like when we're no calling there. So all you can do is you will listen to the news, and they can also encourage you to buy the newspaper to listen to the news in details.
But do you do viewer recognition at times?
Oh yes, we do viewer recognition. When you are watching, we notify you, and sometimes we even appreciate you on a show, telling you thank you for always following us. We also encourage you to share the live stream, because the more you share the live stream, we transform and we transition our
Focal TV, bringing you innovation to broadcasting, news, views, comments, and analysis of issues happening in Liberia and the rest of the world. Focal TV, with check and balance, we bring it as it unfolds. Focal TV, bringing you face to face with newsmakers in town. Focal TV, the best online platform in broadcasting. Focal TV, located at Topo Village, Somalia Drive, Liberia. Be the part and experience the best in online broadcasting. Keep Focal.
A pleasant good morning and welcome to Focal Online TV. Welcome to the daily edition of Inside the Print Media here on Focal Online TV. If you are watching from the diaspora, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you. If you are watching from our mother's land, Liberia, a pleasant good morning to you. And this is where we inform you about the happenings within our country on the daily edition of Inside the Print Media. So this morning, I am your presenter here on the daily edition of Inside the Print Media, and my name is Finan Pa. I'm here along with my co-presenter. His name is Lyndon Topa is my co-presenter here on the daily edition of Inside the Print Media. And this morning, we're going to be informing you of all of the happenings within our country, Liberia. We apologize for not being on air for 2 days. We had an important training that was hosted by the UN, and we had to attend that as media practitioner, hoping that we can give back from our training that will be later discussed on this platform. But let's look at our revision of newspapers we have in studio this morning. We have the Daily Observer newspaper, we have the Front Page Africa newspaper, we have the New Dawn newspaper, and lastly, we have the Hot Pepper newspaper. Moving forward internationally, our source for today is the BBC, where we're going to be bringing you one interesting topic or one interesting story as it relates to the international world. And our source is the BBC. So before we begin, let's look at our headlines of news reading here today. Under the Daily Observer newspaper, we have President react to a Sept election outcome. That is one of the headlines under the Daily Observer newspaper. Another headline reads under the Daily Observer newspaper, U.S. citizen accused of attempting to kill his Liberian wife appears in court. U.S. citizen accused of attempting to kill his Liberian wife appears in court. Another headline under the New Dawn newspaper reads, NEC publishes photo roll. NEC publishes photo roll. That is another headline under the New Dawn newspaper. And then we'll run quickly to another one. ECOWAS condemns inciting statements. ECOWAS condemns inciting statements. So these are the two top stories under the New Dawn newspaper. We now move over to front page Africa. LRA hand over seized drugs and guns to relevant authorities. LRA hand over seized drugs and guns to relevant authority. Here, Linda Topa, can you please give the headlines of front page Africa newspaper top story? Another headline.
Citizens warn against eating sperm whale swept I showed in Palm Bush community. That is the headline there.
That is the last headline
That is
under
the
the
last.
front page African newspaper.
Yeah,
And then the hot paper newspaper on the sidelines of hunger. Claudia addresses anti-malaria campaign in Washington. It's so interesting to see the first lady of our country, Liberia, giving her say as it relates to these medical health issues. So I feel it's a great news this morning. So folks, we encourage you to get yourself a newspaper. What we do here on Focal Online TV, we bring to you top stories relating to our country, Liberia, and the world at large. So in order to be informed about all of the happenings within our country, Liberia, get yourself a newspaper, or better still, be glued to us here on Focal Online TV, where we bring innovation to broadcasting. We take a short break. When we get back, I fill you in directly from the Daily Observer newspaper, where I bring you the information relating to the top stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll be right back shortly.
Focal TV. Bringing you innovation to broadcasting, news, views, comments, and analysis of issues happening in Liberia and the rest of the world. Focal TV. With check and balance, we break it as it unfolds. Focal.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. If you are watching us live, this is Focal Online TV. This is where we bring you the daily edition of Inside of Print Media. This is where we bring you our news reading. So this morning, today is September 22nd, and today is Friday. So whatever you are doing, we continue to encourage you to keep pushing forward, because remember, there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. So this morning, I'm going to commence my news reading from the Daily Observer newspaper. And one of the headline reads, President Weah to accept election outcome. President Weah to accept election outcome. News in details. President George Weah has reiterated his call for the world leaders to respect constitutional governance and the will of the people at the end of the elections. Addressing the UN General Assembly yesterday, the president claimed that as a strong believer in democracy, his government has strengthened the National Election Commission to operate without undue influence. As a strong believer in democracy, let me reiterate my call for the respect of constitutional governance and respect for the will of the people. We are said in a remark that it will be his last address at the UN if not re-elected come October 10 polls. The National Elections Commission has been strengthened to ensure that it operates without undue influence, we are added. The government of Liberia has taken all necessary measures to ensure a free, fair, transparent, peaceful, inclusive, and credible elections. The president's remarks, according to observers, are key towards ensuring the credibility of the October 10 polls, which is the fourth in the country post-war history. It comes amidst growing concern among some opposed politicians that the October polls might be marred by irregularities. The concerns have been fueled in part by remarks from Vice President Joseph Boakai that he would not accept the result of the fraudulent elections. Boakai on September 17, 3 days ago, the president's remark yesterday re emphasized His call for a level playing field and vigilant monitoring to prevent any potential irregularities, as he warned the electoral misconduct will not be accepted. The upcoming election is firstly contested by Bwaka, Alexander Cummings, Councillor Tawan Gonglo, and Dr. Clarence Monba, all emerging as a formidable opponent who pose a serious challenge to the president's re-election bid. However, we are in his Onga address, further express his belief that the October 10 polls have placed the country on course to consolidate its democratic credentials. The elections, the president noted, is an opportunity to sustain the gains the country has made in reconstructions and its development process. This is how we transition to another aspect of our news reading, and another headline reads: U.S. citizen accused of attempting to kill his Liberian wife appears in court. U.S. citizen accused of attempting to kill his Liberian wife appears in court. Lucas K. Richard, the U.S. citizen accused of attempting to kill his Liberian wife, identified as Jessica Lord, has been charged on and forwarded to the Bourgeois Island Magisterial Court for trial. Richard was charged with criminal attempt to commit murder and aggravated assault by the Liberia National Police (LNP), ushered from a police pickup in handcuffs or black t-shirts and cargo shorts. Richard made his first court appearance on Tuesday, September 19, exactly 5 days after he was arrested on September 14 in the Palmfine community, Dixville, on the outskirts of Monroeville. Among his personal effects presented to the court were anxiety suppressant pills with potential drowsing effects. Though it was not clear whether he ever used them on the victim. According to court documents, on September 14 at 4 p.m., defendant Lucas K. Richard was arrested at Quantet with his constitutional rights investigated and subsequently charged with the crime of criminal attempt to commit murder and aggravated assault in violation of Chapter 10, Section 10.1, Chapter 14 for knowingly, purposely, and intentionally attempting to cause the death of victim Jessica Lord. The documents claim that defendant Richard hit the victim on the head with a heavy blunt object, which caused her to go unconscious, and subsequently used a sharp object, that is knife, to slash the throat of his victim, Jessica Lord, in an attempt to kill her. The document also quoted the victim that she and the defendant got on board a white Land Cruiser bearing plate number A62650 on September 14. According to Lord, during the ride, defendant Richard took the route leading towards Partnersville and onward to Quebec community before going towards Dixville community using the main streets. It was alleged by victim Jessica Lord that defendant Lucas Richard drove off the main streets when they entered the Dixville community, where she realized that they got very close to a river bank where they saw a group of persons believed to be disadvantaged youth, that is, youth at risk, who came around the defendant asking for financial help, but defendant Richard got back into the vehicle and drove a little distance away. She claimed that the defendant Richard asked that they both disembarked, which they did. According to her, when they disembarked the vehicle, Richard was seen pulling a knife from a cage and walking into the bush. She further claimed that Richard told her that he was holding the knife because he is afraid of snakes, and if any snake attempt to bite him, he will attack said snake using the knife, and thereafter he asked her to follow him. but she refused and told him, "You know, I am afraid I will not come there." And as such, defendant Richard returned to his victim. She and Rachel later walked the opposite direction of the bush where he had seen an animal and wanted her to come closer to him to see animal, but she did not follow him. Suddenly, she said Richard immediately returned to victim Jessica Lord with the knife in one of his hands, asking her for them to board the vehicle, which she did, and they drove off and later got on the main street, running through Dixville and turned the vehicle head towards the direction of Dixville Junction, Caldwell Township, and while en route, he asked the victim for them to sit at a cemetery alongside road so that they could have a quiet time. But she registered to him that she did not want to sit at a cemetery as such. They continued their journey until they reached within the vicinity of Early Memorial School alongside Main Street, specifically Palm Farm Dixville community, where defendant Richard stopped the white Land Cruiser on grounds that one of the tires on said vehicle had developed a problem. In the quest for defendant Richard to inflict serious body wounds on her and take away her life for reasons best known to himself. According to her, he employed several tricks as mentioned above, but took advantage of an opportunity when he placed her under the pretense that one of the tires under the Jeep did develop problem, and at that junction he asked her to assist him by placing a vehicle wheel ring on one of the tires at the passenger side of the vehicle. And while she was doing the same, defendant Richard seized the opportunity to strike with her an instrument at the back of her head and started to pull her in the grass very close to a water station in a drainage alongside the roadside, where he used a knife to slash a little portion of the front part of her neck. This was attested by witness Ernest Phillip, who initially spotted defendant Richard perpetrating said actions before alarming for assistance. According to the police charge sheet, according to the documents, defendant Richard claimed that it was Ernest Phillip or Abdullah Sherry, both of whom were motorbike riders, who hit victim Jessica Lord with a motorbike but falsely accused him of wanting to kill Jessica Lord, who he claimed he tried to assist. However, the records claim that defendant Richard denied being the one who inflicted wounds on victim, but instead claimed it was a moving motorbike rider that hit the victim with his bike and subsequently raised alarm that he, defendant Richard, was the one trying to kill her. At this junction, we will now proceed with the New Dawn newspaper. But before then, we will move quickly to Kill Lyndon Tokpa, who will fill us in on the front page Africa newspaper.
All right, thank you. Many thanks to Perfina for setting a beautiful piece. Front page Africa newspaper. LRA hands over seized drugs and gun to relevant authorities. The Custom Department of the Liberia Revenue Authority has seized and transferred 3 boxes of confiscated narcotic drug and 13 pieces of guns to the appropriate government entities in an official handover ceremony held on Thursday, September 21. The Customs Department relinquished the custody of 3 boxes of narcotic drug to the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency at the Rabat International Airport. These narcotics, as indicated on the railway bill, was originally imported into the country by Mr. Sam Sine, the same individual associated with a recent drug seizure incident at Rabat International Airport. Agent Emma B. Reed, officer in charge of customs investigations, remarked during the handover of the drug consignment to LBEA, this marks the second shipment of organic Steva green tea leaf, which The LMDA has confirmed contained methamphetamine. The illicit drug was imported into the country via Kenya Airways flight KQ508 on September 11, 2023. They were uncovered during a routine inspection of cargo within the RIA cargo warehouse. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, September 20, the Customs Department transferred 13 shot single-barrel firearms to the Joint Secretariat in Zozo Sept, Lofi County. The shot single-barrel firearms were discovered while being smuggled into the country through the Yila Custom Business Office in Lofi County, bordering Guinea. The firearms were uncovered during a routine inspections of cross-border traders. The alleged smugglers, identified as Sia 5 Fofanan from Kakata City in Magidi County, entered Liberia from Guinea, concealing the firearms in bed. Suspect Fofanan is currently in the custody of the Dun Security. Both the confiscated drugs and the firearm are subject of ongoing investigations in accordance with Liberian law. The Customs Department of the LRA remains committed to its core responsibilities, which encompass not only revenue collection but also facilitating cross-border trade, ensuring border security, and safeguarding the interests of Liberian citizens. We move over to another headlines. Citizen warn against eating sperm whale swept ashore in Palm Bush community. It has come to the attention of the National Fishery and Aquaculture that citizens of the Palm Bush community in Dwazan adjacent Silver Beach were seen cutting through a dead sea animal assumed to be a sperm whale for consumption. It has come okay. NAFA urges the general public to desist from such an act immediately as feeding on a dead fish without knowing the cause could be very detrimental to the populations involved. These are ways in which diseases are spread from one person to another, leading to an epidemic. NAFA is working with all relevant authorities and institutions to ensure that carcass is removed from the beach to avoid any chance of other consuming the fish. With this being said, it brings us to the close of Front Page Africa. Back to you, Greg, for the continuation on this platform.
Thanks to you, Kaylin. That's why we continue with our news reading from the New Down newspaper. But before then, we have our viewers watching. I will be challenged just to acknowledge you. We appreciate you joining us from Waving Bassett County. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is Focal Online TV. This is where we inform the people of the happenings within our country, Liberia. NEC publishes photo roll. National Election Commission (NEC) says individual voters desiring to check their personal voting information may do so via the NEC website. Addressing a press briefing inside the James N. Fomayan conference hall at the Commission in Monrovia on Thursday, September 21, NEC chairperson Davieto Brown Lasana said registered voters wanting to access their information are encouraged to visit the platform by entering their voter ID number and year of birth access personal information. She says NEC will continue to keep the public abreast of preparatory activities leading to 2023 presidential and general elections. She adds that the Commission will commence weekly press briefing on the status of the electoral process beginning Tuesday, 26 September 2023 at 11 a.m. at its headquarters in Singa, Monrovia. She indicated that as has been with past election when NEC made available electronic copies of the final registration roll, that is FRR, to political parties, independent candidates, and other stakeholders, the final registration of the 2023 elections will be made available to all concerned. Madam Lasana explained that the technical team of NEC is working to have the biometric voter roll placed in a secure format and same will be made available to all stakeholders as soon as possible. She further said the commission has a team of personnel working 24 hours on the three shifts to ensure the final registration roll is printed and posted and pasted at each of the 2080 voting precincts prior to elections. For his part, the Deputy Director of the Data Center at NEC, Philip Arthur, said the final registration roll process has already started. He said that when the roll is printed, it is sent to the first check for quality control where all prisons are listed, and once the pricing is printed, the number of polling places are indicated. Mr. Toll added that they print a double with duplex printing and single size, and the single is posted in polling centers on election day so voters can verify their information and where to cast their votes. For her part, NEC Deputy Director of Operations, Emma Topa, said the National Election Commission has received election materials from the Free Port of Monrovia for with barely 18 days to the polls. This is how we move over to another story under the New Down newspaper. ECOWAS condemns inciting statements. ECOWAS condemns inciting statements. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has flagged a creeping tendency for some political leaders and activists to stir violent emotions here in the run-up to Liberia October's elections. In a statement released Thursday, 21 September 2023, ECOWAS expressed concern against the creeping tendency for some political leaders and activists to use incendiary rhetoric that could stir violence, emotions, incite disturbances, and jeopardize the peace and stability of Liberia. ECOWAS condemned in no uncertain terms such inflammatory statements that have the propensity to trigger violent confrontations, the statement said. The regional bloc did not name a particular political leader or an activist, but its statement comes at the time Nimba Senator Prince Wyatt Johnson faces condemnation for recently issuing the threat against election rigging. Senator Johnson told a press conference on Monday that the impressive turnout exhibited during the opposition Unity Party UP's campaign launch on 17 September 2023 is an indication of the people's resolve to remove President George Weah from power. Before the October elections, Liberians are coming out under the banner, "Don't try it. Any attempt the people's power will be exercised like the Arab Spring," said Senator Johnson. "You will shoot your gun, you will kill us, you will die. No more fear. Liberians don't have fear anymore," Senator Johnson said. The former Liberian warlord is a key political ally of opposition presidential candidate Ambassador Joseph Yuma Bouaka and former ruling Unity Party in this year elections. He raised a concern about alleged potential election interference by the ruling Coalition for Democratic Change (CDC) and has threatened to fight back with arms in the cause for the people. Liberia Joint Security has condemned Senator Johnson's threat of an Arab Spring rebellion should the government rig the October 2023 presidential and legislative elections. Meanwhile, ECOWAS has urged political actors to use dialogue and mediation to address grievances and legal channels to seek redress to such concerns. We continue to reiterate the importance of fostering an issues-based campaign devoid to vituperative language, said ECOWAS. The regional bloc called on all state institutions with roles to play in the electoral process to continue to execute their mandates in neutrality. It further urged them to provide a level playing field for all stakeholders to exercise constitutional rights with respect to the rule of law. This is how we move over to the hot pepper newspaper. Kaylin Tupa is being turned over to you to inform us
Oh,
from your end on Hot Pepper Newspaper.
thank you, Griffin and Steve Pie, for such a beautiful coordination as always on this platform. Hot Pepper Newspaper. On the sidelines of hunger, Clyde Weir addresses anti-malaria campaign in Washington. First Lady Clyde Mary Weir has underscored the severity of malarial disease, especially on pregnant women and children in Liberia, urging international partners to support her country's fight against the menace. Of First Lady Weir wants international partners to support the Liberian government in its prevention and treatment program as malaria remains a leading cause of death and frequent visits to health facilities in the country. One of the major issues that confronts and hinders intermittent preventive treatment uptake in Liberia is the frequent stock out of drugs and their serious, sorry, the First Lady said. As such, I herewith make a passionate plea to our partners that supply of IPTP to kindly with a touch of urgency work with us to address the start out challenge. This also creates a unique opportunity for strengthening Africa pharmaceutical and manufacturing sector to scale up productions of ITPT so that it supplies as well as that as many essential drugs in Africa are secured. The First Lady made that session Wednesday, September 20, 2022, when she addressed the Speed Up Skilled Up Intermittent Preventive Treatment campaign on the sideline of the ongoing United Nations General Assembly in New York, United States of America. Speed Up Skilled TIPPT campaign was initiated in 2022 by the Malarial in Pregnancy Working Group of the RMB Partnership to End Malaria as part of its effort to increase access to intermittent preventive treatment for pregnant women. Over 1,000 people, including more than 300 signatures from organizations in Africa and more than 700 signatures from another 43 countries, have signed a letter under the umbrella of the campaign, calling on decision makers to provide an eligible pregnant women with the malaria preventive treatment they need. First Lady Weir has endorsed the Speed Up Skilled Up Intermittent Preventive Treatment campaign on around the initiative to protect women and other unborn children from malaria, which is close to my heart. As a champion of the maternal and child health in Liberia, the First Lady disclosed efforts through her foundation, Clyde Foundation, is working with local and international partners to ensure that women and children are healthy and fully empowered to have a prosperous life. As part of the future plans, the First Lady disclosed Clyde Hope Foundation intends to construct a state-of-the-art mother and child hospital to further strengthen the fight and eradicate the infant mortality rate. First Lady, we are then praise the efforts of local and international partners for their support over the years, which has yielded significant gains in Liberia's fight against malaria. Because I am quite passionate about the prevention, treatment, and eradications of malaria in Liberia and across the continent of Africa, I am pleased to say that together with trusted partners such as the US President's Malaria Initiative, JAPIGO, the World Bank, and other partners, coverage of IPT more than double 25% in 2020 to 56% in 2021, said the First Lady. Despite the progress, the First Lady noted that her husband, President George Weah, and his government remain committed to doubling their efforts in the fight against this pandemic. With this being said, it brings us to the final close of Hot Pepper Newspaper. Back to you, Rick.
Thanks to you, Killing Nantopa. To our viewers, I will be Chalo and our CEO, Andy Boblajara. Momodu, great thanks for joining us this morning. I'm following from Kansas City, PRC. Well, we appreciate you for following us, Momodu Gray and Abu B. Jallo. He's calling from Grand Bassa County. We appreciate you here. This is how we take a short break and close our local news segment here for today. When we get back, I'll fill you in on our international news. Remember, our source for today is the BBC. So thanks for watching, folks. Just to summarize all of our news here today. Firstly, we have the issue from Hot Pepper newspaper. The sidelines of Olga Claire Weir addressed anti-malaria campaign in Washington. She addressed the anti-malaria campaign in Washington, hoping that some measures will be taken place wherein our country Liberia will be involved. Citizens warn against eating sperm whales swept a show in Palm Bush community. So this has been brought to the attention of NAFA, and this particular story was being broadcasted on every platform, and it was even done on the internet yesterday, where you see this whale was on the seashore, and you see Liberians cutting portion of it to eat it. Sometimes when you see these things, it's good enough, but you have to be careful because sometimes it has a bad health issue and it will lead to future damages in terms of epidemic situations. So you have to be careful. Sometimes it should be examined. You should have NAFA being involved, call on them, emergency call, let them come and do what they have to do. Sometimes that particular animal being at that particular place is not even safe for the community as well. So you see, it's something that NAFA have found on, and they are saying that people should stop cutting it. People should stop eating it for consumption. Do not eat it. Do not cut it. Don't even go side it. And yes, this was the issue from Newtown newspaper. Another headline from Frontage Africa, LRA hands overseas drugs and guns. So this particular issue was LRA. It was involved with LRA on the issue of drugs that was seized and transferred 3 boxes of confiscated and narcotic drugs and 13 pieces of guns to the appropriate government entities. So in an official handover ceremony on Thursday, that was yesterday, the Customs Department relinquished custody of 3 boxes of narcotic drugs and to the Drugs Enforcement Agency, like World Drugs Enforcement Agency (LDEA) at the Rabat International Airport. These narcotics, as indicated on the airway bill, were originally imported into the country by Mr. Sam Sale, the same individual associated with the recent drug seizure incident at Rabat International Airport. So you see where we are heading. The same man that was involved in the drugs that came into the country, the director for security at the Rabat International Airport, was the one involved in the drugs and the gun. So LRA has turned it over to LDEA, that is Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency. I'm doing this to just bring the news to an end. And then we have ECOWAS condemns inciting statement. A statement was made by Prince Johnson that whatever decision to break the election, and then he made a specific comment about the Arab Spring, which is not a good one, and people are frowning on it. That if anything happened, the people power will be exercised like the Arab Spring. What does he mean like the Arab Spring? It does not show anything good because we all know the Arab
It's a
Spring.
it is the statement in relation to chaos.
Yes, to chaos.
Yeah.
So it's not a good thing, and ECOWAS is condemning inciting statements. ECOWAS is saying if political leaders have issues, they should be able to have a forum to address it. So you don't come on the media and say these things. So, Honorable, we appreciate your efforts of stating what you have to say, but sometimes you just have to be careful how you use these words because if anything trigger behind, it sometimes reflects on what you say. Even you will not be the one who was involved, but then other people, it will still say, it will still reflect on you because you said it. So sometimes as leaders, we don't say these things and we are frowning on it. As journalists, we don't support these things. We don't want any rebellion issue like Arab Spring in our country. Kelly, not about do you want any of that?
No. Because considering the fact that Nigerians have suffered, extremely taking into consideration the 2 years of senseless war that was put into this country, we see how how far we are in terms of in terms of developments. We are way beyond. A lot of people, a lot of people who once respected Liberia are no longer respecting Liberia. Like the issue about health system. Our health system is so fragile to the extent that every other thing has been, have been massively affected from the 60 war, the years of what I was fought to this country.
Thanks to you, Killing. So, still summarizing our news story, we have another one from the news on newspaper. NEC publishes photo roll. NEC said to the public that if you want to check up on your voter registration card and know whether all of your documents are being documented well in terms of election, where should you vote, all of the different precincts, they are encouraging you to go on their website to check it up. So, addressing a press conference and James N. Fomaya Conference Hall in James N. Fomaya Conference Hall, the chairperson for NEC, the chairperson for NEC, please remember her name. These are things that you have to remember. Sometimes it comes in immediate questions. So the chairperson for NEC is Deviesa Brown Lasana. She said voter registration or register of voters wanting to access their information are encouraged to visit the platform by entering. What do you have to do if you go on NEC website? You have to enter your voter ID card number, the year of birth, access as personal information. So you have to enter your photo ID card number and then your year of birth. Your year of birth serves as an access personal information. So it's prudent enough. She says anything will continue to keep the public abreast. Will continue to keep you informed of preparatory activities, many activities preparation that will lead to our elections. They'll keep informing you, leading you to 2023 presidential election. She added that the commission will commence weekly press briefings, so there'll be press briefing on the different platforms from Deviata Brown Lasana, who is the chairperson for NEC. So then the names and all of the information will be posted to the different polling places within the various community in a sooner date. NEC is working on that. So if you want to use the internet, go to their website and then indicate your photo ID card number and your birth. Your year of birth serve as an access personal information. Do not forget that. So another one from the Data Observer newspaper has to do with Jessica issue. We all know a U.S. citizen accused of attempting to kill his Liberian wife, Jessica. So yeah, that is it. He was taken to court and the court ruled. And yes, he was then ushered. He was then ushered. He was charged with criminal attempt to commit murder and aggravated assault by the LMP. And he was ushered to the court on September 19th, exactly 5 days ago. Among his personal effects and others, they found some drugs with him, and it has some personal effects as well. They were checking on that. So yes, the case was investigated, and then Jessica's parents and siblings remain thankful that she survived such a close encounter with death, but they say that they will not rest until Richard, from whom they accepted a dowry for her hand in marriage, is convicted under the full weight of the law. Richard has so far stuck to his story. Richard said he did not kill. He still, I mean,
He said
has
deny.
yeah, he still denied that he did not kill Jessica. It was the motorcyclist. However, many are wondering why, given that Jessica's pregnancy was terminated, Richard still attempted to take her life. This is a question only Lucas Richard can answer. So Richard have been taken to court, and I'm sure there will be earlier information about all of the happenings in court, but he has been taken to the law, and we pray that our Lord will feel right. We are to accept election. Our president has assured the UN that this coming election will be free, fair, and transparent. So this is how we run quickly to our international news, folks. Time is fast spent. Time is of an essence right now. So we move quickly to our international news. Our source for today is BBC Child Fentanyl death Police seek husband of NYC nursery owner. New York City police are hunting for the husband of a nursery owner after a 1-year-old died from a suspected drug overdose of at the facility, and three other children were taken to hospital. Nicholas Dominic died after inhaling fentanyl at the nursery operated by Chair Mendes, who has been arrested. Fentanyl was found under a mat used by the children for napping. Police said the synthetic painkiller, 50 times more powerful than heroin, has been blamed for a rise in U.S. drug deaths. On Wednesday, an NYPD, New York Police Department spokesperson, told the BBC that police were still trying to ascertain the identity of the woman's house, whom charging documents described as a co-conspirator. Video footage shows the husband fleeing before police arrive. There is no reward currently being offered for his arrest. Three children were revived from Nakan, an overdose reversing drugs, after police were called to the Divino Nino nursery in Bonas on Friday. So this is serious. These are things we overlook in our country, Liberia, but this is serious. A child was overdosed by a drug um, from a nursery center or a nursery owner, and police are investigating. Why should a child be overdosed with drugs? Why should you be so careless to leave a drugs place that it shouldn't be? Thanks for watching, folks. We appreciate you, Perry in Dobley. By the way, following from Painesville resident, I hope I got your name right. If I did not, I'm so sorry. But the last name is Zolu. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. Thanks, folks. My name is Gakina Courage Bar. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back again hopefully Monday to fill you in.
Focal TV, bringing you innovation